best Real Madrid signing for each year from 2010 straight to the current year of 2025. So 2010/11, this one, you will remember many familiar names in the season. Sami Khedira, Ricardo Carvalho, but the man, the myth, the legend, and the guy who was the best signing for 2010/11 is none other than Mesut Ozil. So Mesut Ozil, he came from a fantastic World Cup 2010 with Germany, signed from Werder Bremen, and he was immediately put into the starting 11 for Jose Mourinho. And you know how Jose Mourinho just brags about how he can scout players, how he does investments from the past? Well, Ozil is that investment. Because can you believe it? This guy had a whopping 10 goals and 28 assists in his first season for Real Madrid. That is insane numbers. That is a dream season for an attacking midfielder. And by far was the best signing. Now of course, second place could be Di Maria. And it is Di Maria, so we're gonna go with Ozil. But just remember, honorable mention, Di Maria was also extremely good. 2011/12, this one, quite a tricky one. We had Rafael Varane, we had Fabio Coentrão, Jose Cajon, and I can choose either one of them. I thought Cajon was a good bench replacement. Fabio Coentrão was played in a lot of big games, but I'm gonna go for a sneaky one here. I'm gonna go for Rafael Varane. And it's not because he was outstanding. He was signed in as a youngster, 18 years of age, and he stood out the most for me because we signed Nuri Sahin and some other Turkish player, I can't remember his name. But to me, Rafael Varane stood out. He was promising, and Jose Mourinho really liked him because he impressed in the season. I'm gonna go for Rafael Varane. 2012/13, this one was also a very confusing year for signings. We had Michael Essien, we had Luka Modric, we had Diego Lopez, and I could just go for Diego Lopez due to the fact that in 2013, the news reports were going crazy about Luka Modric, saying he was flop of the season, which I know that sounds absolutely insane. But Luka Modric, I'm choosing him actually as the best signing of 2013. Not because of what he would do in the future seasons, but because he was actually very good in 2012/13. He had a few memorable performances, one in particular, the one at Old Trafford, in which he bossed the midfield, even scored a banger. Modric to me, best signing of 2012/13. 2013/14, it's an obvious one. We could go for Isco, but I think this one is a runaway. Gareth Bale, signed in 100 million euros. Gareth Bale, sensational numbers. He scored over 20 goals, over 10 assists. He had over 30 goals and assists in his first season. And he was a part of the trio BBC, Bale, Cristiano, Benzema. Not to mention his fantastic Champions League campaign, scoring one of the winning goals in the Champions League final. Gareth Bale, runaway for 2013/14. 2014/15, this one actually is a tough one. We signed James Rodriguez, Javier Hernandez, Toni Kroos, Keylor Navas, and these were all four very big signings who all, in my opinion, performed, maybe except for Keylor Navas. But I'm gonna go for James Rodriguez here. 17 goals in your first season. This man had 30 goals and assists in his first season as a midfielder. Now he also came off of a fantastic World Cup similar to Ozil, but James to me was one of the best players in the world at the time. And for me, even in a star-studded team with Cristiano, I remember me as a fan, I would watch the games just to watch James Rodriguez. Even though you had Toni Kroos, Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo, James was just so spectacular. But unfortunately, his Real Madrid career then ruined by injuries. But him, no doubt, best player for 2014/15. 2015/16, we also signed a bunch of players. We had Kiko Casilla, Danilo, Kovacic, and I'm gonna go for a player who was in the academy of Real Madrid, but then re-signed from Espanyol, Lucas Vazquez. I mean, what can we even say? Who else can we say? Lucas Vazquez was so important. You all remember that Champions League penalty shootout in which he scored one of the coldest penalties we've ever seen. Lucas Vazquez, he was also very important overall in the season. When Gareth Bale or Cristiano were injured or were suspended, Lucas Vazquez would fulfill that role at right wing, and he was good. Lucas Vazquez, I know it's difficult to believe, but he was good. It's just that now he plays at right back, so people will always discredit him. 2016/17, now this one, also a very tough one in my opinion. You had Alvaro Morata, you had Marco Asensio, 2 Spaniards, and I believe the only 2 signings for that season. Now the thing about Morata is, he was a good bench player. He scored over 20 goals as a bench player, and he then moved the next season to Chelsea because of how good he was. Great competition for Benzema, but I'm not gonna choose him. I'm gonna choose Marco Asensio. A youngster at the time, scored on his debut in literally every competition, scored in the big games against Bayern Munich, and then in the Champions League final against Juventus. Asensio, to me, best signing of 2016/17. Okay, so 2017/18, you tell me in the comments who you think was the best signing, because honestly, there was nobody. We signed Dani Ceballos, we signed Theo Hernandez, and to be honest, they weren't too impressive. They were both bench players who barely played. So I'm gonna skip this one out. No good signings for 2017/18. You are going to notice a trend here because in 2018/19, we also had bad signings. Mariano Diaz, Thibaut Courtois was also bad at the time, and we had Vinicius Jr. also as a signing, and that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm going with Vinicius Jr. He wasn't the best, but he was extremely promising. Dribbles were off the charts. He didn't score much goals, but we all saw his potential. His dribbling was insane. It's just his finishing was off, and we all knew that if he works on his finishing, he would be unstoppable, which in this current day, he is unstoppable. But back then, he was still 18 years of age. But I'm still gonna choose him as the best signing for 2018/19. We go from one season of bad signings to another, 2019/20. We signed Eden Hazard, flop. Luka Jovic, also flop. We signed Areola, who was quite decent. Ferland Mendy, also quite decent. And Rodrigo Goes. So with Rodrigo, he had an outstanding season as a breakout season for Real Madrid. Still a bench player, but was still trusted more in games than Gareth Bale at the time. Because remember, it was Zizou who was in charge. He did the most random things. But regardless of how good Rodrigo was, I'm gonna go for Ferland Mendy. He was good. He replaced Marcelo. Nobody expected it. But Marcelo did fall off in this time. This was the beginning of his fall off. Ferland Mendy came in. He was promising. He was also very good in defense and attack, which is a thing that we rarely say nowadays. But Mendy was quite good. Best signing for 2019/20. 2020/21 was a weird one. No signings, pandemic season. All around, no signings. Zizou decided nobody. Perez decided no signings. But one signing Real Madrid actually did make was Hugo Duro. You guys will know him. The guy can't stop scoring against Real Madrid nowadays. But him at the time signed in on loan as a youngster. He played about 2 matches or 3 matches. But overall for 2020/21, nobody. So 2021/22, Champions League winning season and the rejuvenation of Real Madrid. The signings were David Alaba and Eduardo Camavinga. 2 monumental signings, and it's difficult to choose between the 2. But it's also easy to choose David Alaba. So good in our defense. We lost Sergio Ramos. He came in, brought the mentality back, brought greatness back to Real Madrid. And at the time, Bayern fans were calling him washed up, finished. He came into Real Madrid at 30 years of age and shut all of them completely down. Alaba by far best signing for 2021/22. 2022/23, we won the Copa del Rey this season. And for this one, if the World Cup didn't occur, I would be choosing Tchouaméni. He had the better start of the season. Replaced Casemiro. I would have chosen him if he didn't get injured and then eventually get benched for the entire season. Antonio Rudiger was also on the bench for the entire season, but the reason why I'm going to choose him for best signing in the season is because of his performance against Man City, where he locked down prime Erling Haaland. So that's why I'm going to choose him best signing for 2022/23. 2023/24, about 6 signings were made, but out of all of those signings, it doesn't matter how good they were, it would be idiotic for me to not choose Jude Bellingham. 23 goals as a midfielder for Real Madrid, monumental in every way for Madrid, won the Champions League and La Liga, while being so pivotal in all of the big matches and in all of the El Clásicos. Jude Bellingham is a runaway for the season. Best player for 2023/24. And the last one, 2024/25. This current season, we brought in Endrick, brought in Kylian Mbappe, and even though Mbappe was called a flop for the majority of the season, he was still better than Endrick. Endrick hasn't really gotten into Real Madrid, I would say. They have been benching him a lot, but he has had a decent impact. His career will flourish in the future, but this year was Mbappe's year. He's now sitting on 31 goals in his first Real Madrid season. I mean, it was expected, but him by far a runaway for best signing of this current season. Listen, that was just my opinions. If you guys disagreed with any of the picks I chose here, tell me there in the comment section. But if you enjoyed, smash like, subscribe. Tell me in the comments if you want to see more of these. Peace out.